Our guest is Rich Calabrese. His website is rentrochester.com, online publication to match up property owners with tenants on the internet, an award-winning website, as we said. Mentioned before we went to break, I want to kind of take a look at this from the landlord's point of view. And Pat, you may be able to, with your expertise, may be able to jump in. Mm-hmm. What does a landlord look for in a good tenant?
My perspective is you want the perfect person. You want somebody that's just going to pay the rent and not destroy your stuff because it's really expensive to repair it. That's the bottom line from my perspective.
That person doesn't exist, though.
That is correct. That's why I'm not a landlord anymore.
Rich?
Rich is a bigger man than me.
Those people are out there. But I think generally landlords want responsible, mature people to lease their properties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't want to just put anyone in there. If you've got a real nice property, you don't want a bunch of frat boys in there tearing the place up on the weekends.
Right. But what freedom do you have to say, no, I'm not going to rent to you, or, yeah, I will? Because we've all seen those and heard those, those announcements about housing discrimination.
Yeah.
You walk a fine line there?
There is a fine line. There's no doubt. People with pets and smokers aren't protected in fair housing. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a landlord and I want to say, hey, I don't want you to have your cat or dog here, and I don't want you to smoke in my property, I can tell you no, and there's nothing you can do.
You can demand that someone has a job? I mean, is that the fine line? Because if you don't have a job, you're not going to pay for the place.
Right.
In theory.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of government-driven programs, DSS, Section 8, and I'm not a professional on that.
Yeah.
But those are there to help people who maybe are out of job for a short time or need the help for a period of time.
Because you always hear that it's horrible being a landlord.
Yeah.
That the tenant has way more rights than many more rights than the landlord has. You're saying true. You're shaking your head no.
And depending on the town, I had this experience once going back about 10 years. I did have this. East Rochester had different laws than Fairport, Pittsford, the city. Okay, so I had a tenant move into my place for 3 weeks and couldn't come up with the next month's rent on the first and gave me the excuse, now I'm in here for 90 days. You can't get me out. I said, really? And I'm on the phone with my attorney. I said, how many days do we have in East Rochester? He said, I think 20 or 12 or something like that. It was unbelievably short in my favor, the landlord's favor, which was great. So I says, do the paperwork now. Get him out. And the attorney was trying to be the softy and say, well, let's give him 2 weeks. I said, get him out. He's trying to break my stones. And I got him right into court. I knew the judge, too, and he said, you better pay Mr. Coyne his money. And actually, the good part about it is there is, that karma thing. This is a good story, Steve. My wife happened to find out the guy worked at the company about 6 months after I threw him out at the company my wife worked for. And she called me up. She said, not going to believe who works for our company. I said, who? I said, good. I happen to know this guy's manager personally. Oh. So I called the manager. Says, this guy work for you? Yeah. I said, I'm garnishing his wages as of next week or 2 weeks from now. So I did the paperwork, garnished his wages, right? The manager was polite enough. The guy was a dirtbag as an employee as well. The manager was polite enough 6 months later to say she wanted to fire him. So she was considerate enough to call me and say, did he get you all your money back before she laid him off? I said, yeah, thank you very much for asking. That was very considerate. That's karma right there. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah.
I had to tell that story.
True. That is karma. It all comes around. It's a small enough city that you learn to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You never know who knows who.
Yeah.
But from what I can see over and over and over, the landlords who have the most problem with the tenants are the landlords that don't maintain their property.
Okay. So there is a flip side to that coin.
Oh, yeah.
A slumlord for all
if you
intents
will.
and purposes.
Yeah.
Now, I have this woman who calls my phone, and she must rent an apartment. Her name is Sheila. She's from apartment E. And I think she thinks she's calling her landlord because she calls me maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And I feel really bad for her because all these things are going wrong. And I just want to be like, one time I'm going to answer the phone and be like, Sheila, who is your landlord? Because he is just terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do you actually tell her you don't own her property?
No,
or
because
you just keep listening to her talk?
I'm too busy during the day to really answer my phone. So if someone calls, I just let it go to voicemail. But it's getting to the point where like I see her number come up and I'll know it's her. And one time I'm just tempted to say, okay, you're not calling the right number. But man, she's got all kinds of problems.
You're just a sympathetic voice for this poor lady.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Oh, I don't know. I still have another. We can flip it back to the landlord's favor because I bought some properties from which if you want to use the term slumlord. He didn't take care of the properties; they were very disrepair. So I thought I'd be a great landlord and help these people out. The more I fixed, the faster they broke. Is the bottom line on that too. I really had a stressed out time being a landlord in certain situations because certain stuff is destroyed faster than you can keep it up, and I couldn't understand that.
I think as long as you're a responsible and reactive landlord, you're going to be fine. If something goes wrong, you take care of it. If it's broken, you fix it. It's really that simple. I mean, I know there's more to it than that of being a landlord, but if you maintain your properties, you'll be fine, and you fix it right.
Rich, would you encourage people who think, yeah, I'd like to be a landlord someday? Would you encourage them to get into that biz? And what do you have to be? What do you have to know to become a landlord?
You need to be patient. And it looks good from the outside. Everyone says, well, I'm paying $1,000 a month in rent. My landlord's making a ton of money. He's getting rich.
Yeah.
Not really, because their expenses are going up. RG&E, at least from what I understand, their utilities, their electric went up 25%.
Wow.
And that eats into everybody.
Well, and the property taxes do as well.
Taxes, maintenance,
everything.
They don't realize the maintenance that goes into it. So,
no, there's a lot of tenants that do assume that the landlord's got deep pockets.
oh yeah,
When in fact, a lot of them are just waiting 35 years till these things are paid off to hopefully retire with those things as investments.
oh yeah.
And they're stretching every nickel because I know a lot of landlords that would, if the tenant, and I was in the same situation in several cases where the tenant missed the monthly rent, the landlord had to pay the mortgage out of pocket. So it's not like all these landlords around Rochester are loaded, you know?
That's right.
Then why in the world is there a little guy landlord then? I mean, it
Well-
sounds like you can't win.
Well, they might have bought the property. Say you've got an individual who buys a 3-family.
Yeah,
He lived
yeah.
in that one of those units for 10 years until maybe he got married or needed more space. And the other 2 units help to pay the mortgage, and you build up a little equity and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's not a way to get rich quick.
Really?
Doesn't matter what those guys on TV say.
Yeah.
Most of those guys filed for bankruptcy anyways.
Yeah.
On TV.
Now, in addition to the
Yeah.
website, are you also a landlord? Do you own properties where you rent?
Nothing residential. I manage the downtown office building. What did your son call it again?
You know what building he manages is the Times Square building, or as my son used to call it, the building with the grabbers. You know which one I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He always called it when we go up to hey, it's the building with the grabbers, Dad.
The building with the wings, the
You know, the
Batman
wings-
building,
yeah,
the potato chip building. I've heard
potato
quite a
chip
few.
building.
That's new. I've never
Yeah.
heard potato chip
So
building.
you guys manage that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
It's been managing me lately, but that's okay.
That seems like a great old building, and if you take a look at a building from the outside, that doesn't mean that it's old style inside. It may be it may look great Art Deco, but I'm sure the Times Square building's up to date with all the modern conveniences.
It's all up to date, and officially, I'm very excited to announce it's haunted.
Cool.
It is?
Yay!
Officially.
Really?
Very
This building
excited.
is too.
And how did
so
you get
awesome.
this is very haunted. Yeah. How did you get an official paranormal expert in there to tell you this, or did you just see somebody floating around?
Well, he's official. He was an electrician working in the basement.
Yeah.
There were 3 guys working down there putting in light fixtures, and he had turned around. This one kid turned around and saw at the end of a hall, which really is the darkest, kind of scariest part of the building in the basement. And he said he saw someone. It was a man in a what looked like a white suit or a white jumpsuit, walk from one end of this room to the other across the hall, and it freaked him out. And I think it might have been someone who possibly died building the building, because back in the day, OSHA wasn't around. They didn't have any of the safety harnesses
Sure.
like they do now. They would just walk the beams.
Oh yeah.
And if they tripped and fell, and they're 12 floors up,
Yep.
Now, is
that's
that
what's
going to
gonna happen.
enhance the value of the building, or is it going to,
I think-
are
I
people going
just think
to
it's
be
cool.
running out of there now?
No, I think it's cool. Yeah.
These guys are really into this paranormal activity thing. They did a whole show on it
Yeah.
1 week before I jumped in.
Halloween.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Gosh.
Oh, I believe it completely. This kid was trembling.
Yeah.
He was trembling. He won't go back to the
He
basement.
won't go back to the building, will he? No.
I got him in the lobby last week.
Really?
Not the ghost, but the electrician.
You want your paycheck?
Wow.
Come back in here.
It really freaked him out, but I think it's kind of neat.
Rich Calabrese is our guest. He is with Rent Rochester, rentrochester.com, an online publication. They bring property owners and tenants together via the internet. We're talking a little bit about his commercial properties, the Times Square building, for instance. Now, I would imagine that if you're looking for a property, if you're looking for a rental apartment, companies that are looking for rental space want some perks. Can I expect you to provide heat, electricity, even say internet access? Is that stuff that I can expect you to provide?
That depends on the building.
Yeah.
But we do provide heat and the air conditioning and all the common area maintenance. The only thing that the tenant pays at Times Square is their their personal rent and their suite electric, which is sub-meter.
Uh-huh.
But it really goes from building to building. Typically in a big office building, you're not paying your separate utilities because it's not broken up. It's one big building.
What does our rental market look like here in town compared to, say, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany?
We're actually better than Buffalo. I just saw some stats this morning,
Yeah.
actually. Buffalo has got, I think, 19%. And don't quote me, but I can get the numbers for you if you want.
So
I
that's
think
just 1 out of 5 offices that's available for rent is rented,
oh, the offices.
or property space.
yeah,
19%. See, I like to think in terms of take percentages and put it into 1 out of.
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
Actually, it was 19% vacancy.
Oh,
and it
okay,
was
okay.
residential.
So 4 out of 5 are rented then.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Which
that's
is
even
good.
better.
We're
Good.
even less than that. We're 15%. So we're
good.
We're doing better.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
It's a good thing.
And
It is a good thing.
is there any
residential.
areas more popular than another? I mean, in the Rochester area, any
If you-
trendy? You know what I mean?
If you want to be downtown where you want entertainment, I think the areas that people are looking for is Park Ave, which has been a long-time favorite for years. St. Paul Quarter, Art Gallery District, the Wedge, the East End.
Okay.
But that's an area, if you want that entertainment, you want to walk to it, they're cultural areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the South Wedge. They've really been doing a lot of work down there to clean that area up, and
They've done a ton
it
of work.
looks beautiful. I mean, I go down there all the time. They have all those new shops and coffee places and little pizza places, and the houses are beautiful, and everything is old. And
That should bring the values up, right, Alex?
I think so. I mean, if and people are wanting to go down there. Whereas before it was like kind of an iffier
Yep.
area, right by Highland Hospital there.
Yeah.
But people are really wanting to go down there, and they should.
I'll
Great.
tell you, I was visiting a friend of mine at Highland Hospital last week, and there's some beautiful properties in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Really great city living opportunities.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm going
it's a
to take
great neighborhood.
one more quick break. When we come back, Rich, I want to ask you about another neighborhood that I think could be thriving, and I think I know why it's not. So if you can stay with us for one more break, we'll be back in a couple minutes here on Property Source Radio at Sports Radio 950 ESPN.